Good evening, dear listeners. 晚上好. We are broadcasting live from Traders Hotel, Shenyang City. We are so honored to have here with us Mr. Alvin Requinto from Michelin. Good evening, Sir Alvin.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be with you at this program.
Okay, Sir Alvin, can you please tell us something about yourself? What do you do in Michelin?
I'm an employee of Michelin in Chinese.
Oh,
My office is in Shenyang, China, part of the IT department.
okay. How long have you been connected with Michelin?
It's a good question. I started my career in Michelin in Singapore, Philippines. Nevertheless, 10,
Oh, that's too long already. That's long
a
enough.
bit long.
And what is it that you like in Michelin?
For me personally, what I like most in Michelin is the culture. I mean, the culture of Michelin. The Michelin has a good and friendly respect to the environment, as I could say, the facts, and really the culture. It's one of the big impact on me of Michelin. That's why I like it most.
Okay. And now, can you tell us what makes Michelin different from other companies or corporations?
Because it's the best. No, the thing is that the Michelin respecting of environment, of course, it uses environment-friendly products. The raw materials that being used in tire production of Michelin can contribute to less the environment pollution, for example.
Okay. Now, to educate our listeners out there, can you please tell us more about Michelin? What are the products that Michelin offer to uh, the public? What does it offer to the public, the products?
We have certain products that all over, China, for example, to the Chinese environment, and also in another part, in most of all over the world, most part of the world, it's merely a tire itself. A tire that without a tire, a run or a bus or an airplane cannot run.
Of
So
course.
we have a aircraft tire, we
Oh,
have agricultural tire, we have the truck and buses tire. We
okay.
have a passenger cars, as I could say. We have a moto or a motorcycle two-wheel product, two-wheel tire, as well as the bicycle itself, and somehow the train that being used are also one of the products of Michelin Tire Company.
Okay. Alvin, can you please tell us when did Michelin come to China?
Michelin in China started to sell its tires somewhere in year 1988, if I could still remember it well. And eventually it has a joint venture with a Chinese tire company in Shenyang, where I am located right now. That was started 1996. In that year, the joint venture started until it became Michelin, solely Michelin factory. And in that humble beginning, it is now a bigger, I could say huge factory being constructed, or in fact it started to produce already truck and bus tire, the big tires that we use for the buses. It's now being produced in that new factory somewhere in Shenyang as well.
Yeah, and I heard you are really spreading out here in China. So far, how many production plants have you put up?
And that's the good thing, because China is a huge market, and we have two major factories, one here in Liaoning, here in Shenyang, and the other one is somewhere in Shanghai. So the difference between the two factory is that the factory in Shanghai produces passenger car only for the cars, small cars like that.
What about here in
In
Shenyang?
Shenyang, we produces two types of products, the truck and buses. the truck tires that being produced here sold all over China, as well as the passenger car, which is also another product being produced here in the factory.
Are you also exporting these products to other countries in Asia or other parts of the world? Or is this basically for China?
China market?
Yes.
I think there is a part of that, but I'm not the good guy who could answer in terms of this, sales and
Ah,
marketing.
okay, I
I'm not
understand,
a sales
Alvin.
and marketing guy, that,
Okay, I understand.
yeah.
Now we're talking about here production plants. Can you tell us how do these production plants help save water and energy? You know, here in China, it's a very important concern, water and energy.
Exactly. The environment team that what we have focus on this issue, the air pollution, how do we conserve energy, conserve water, how do we utilize the water what we have. Well, in some point, the situation is like this. The water being used inside the factory is being reduced, being recycled, and at the same time the wastewater will be treated before it released to a place where it will be stuck or will be stored for quite a while before releasing somewhere to be part of the again of the environment. In that way, not only conserving the water, its uses, it's also clean up the water before other uses in another way, in another form.
So in other words, we can say that the production plants of Michelin are not really contaminating our soil or our water.
I can't say 100% no, because as I could say in one of the culture of Michelin is to protect the environment. That's one of the company that advocates environment protection to at least so what we so-called global warming should be not to stop at full force, but just to minimize the impact to not only the company but to the whole humanity itself, I could say.
Yeah, that's true. And then another concern also is about air pollution. How do you, in Michelin, how do you help reduce air pollution, especially in China? It's a very important issue here.
Exactly. Air pollution is one of the issues. In fact, one of the problem in China, I could say, just like in another country. But I'm quite sure Michelin doesn't contribute a little, but not much to have these air polluting things in the environment, in air. Now, what Michelin kept on doing is, for example, they produce the smoke. Before they release that into the air, they have to filter it out. They have to make sure that the contaminants of that will be up to the minimum level that it can be reused or could be released into the air. Now, also, it relates to the raw materials being used in the factory in tire processing. Let's say, for example, the kind of oil, in
Yes.
producing tires, we need to use oil.
Yeah, of course.
That oil is what we could say eco-friendly oil, or it's really a good one to use not to harm the environment. The raw materials, just like what we are using every day, is can be used as a cooking oil. In fact,
Oh, really?
that's the kind of oil that we can. It's a highly grade oil that if it is good to the environment, why not? If we're going to use for cooking, it can be to cook the food that what they are eating in is it kind of oil like that. So basically, it's environment friendly raw materials, something like
Okay, thank you.
good for the environment.
Now, speaking of raw materials, how does Michelin help reduce in the consumption of raw materials? You know, our world is running out of raw materials. How does your company help in the reduction of the consumption of raw materials?
In that situation, we only use what we need. For example, we have to have a stock to a minimum stock that we could have because in a factory, in a tire processing, you have to have a safety stock, for example, to produce your tire. Eventually, if you run out of your raw materials, you can still survive in a way that you have a stock. But in that, I think we in Michelin, adhere to the distribution of wealth of raw materials is being managed.
Okay. Can you tell us what are these raw materials that you are using in the production of tires?
A kind of silly for me because for safety and safety purposes, safety reason, I could say the common thing to produce the tire, you need a carbon black, you need an silica, you need metallic components like that. Into the details, probably no for me.
So these raw materials, are you all extracting them from China, or you're trying to import from other countries as well?
Well, those raw materials are coming from all over the world.
Okay.
We have a supplier, let's say for example, in France, another company, Michelin company itself, another third party company from China itself. We have from South Korea, I could say, in Thailand and all over, in fact.
What about rubber plantations? Do you have them here also in China?
I could say in China we buy the rubber. They're buying the rubber from the suppliers, but somewhere in Africa they have the rubber plantation. They have to utilize those rubbers, and then they have to buy also the rubber coming from another company. As you know, a rubber tree can produce after 10 years. Then after that it will be, died, and then you need to plant again another 10. So
Yes.
the rubber plantation doesn't support or enough to produce all the requirements of the Michelin tire company in, for example, in Shenyang or in China to produce the market, the requirements of the market.
Okay, thank you, Sir Avi. Now, what about the waste products that your production plants are, producing, of course, waste products? Can you tell us what are these waste products?
In terms of waste, yes, we have the byproduct waste and the product itself. Now we have some scrap tires like this. They have to deal with it by recycling or putting or giving that to the recycling people. And also another waste product, I could say, because of the byproduct will be given to another company. I've heard in one of the factory in somewhere in France, the byproduct is being given to one company that could utilize that to become another product. So in that way, it will conserve the product itself because it just recycling. In that way, I believe it helps the environment.
Yes, of course, recycling waste really is a big help to the environment. Okay, now can you share us something about your the tires that you do, the tires that you produce? They say that Michelin tires are different from other tires being produced by other companies because of one reason it's the fuel saving, quality of these tires.
Um, yes, the innovations of the tire come from Michelin, help the environment, help to reduce the mileage, the percentage of gasoline being used by the car. How it will goes. I'm not the real expert on that, but on my
I understand.
basic idea that really, if you love the environment, the people, the uh, the product should be innovative enough to have those things to be part of your product. So it could save the oil because the rolling resistance of the tire can help you consume a little gasoline, for example, or a diesel somehow to
Energy.
be able to your car to run. So in that way, you're already saving some cost, not only also saving the environment itself. And Michelin has a number of products in part of that innovation, we have some big tires used in agriculture, for example.
Yeah, I heard of that, and that's really a very nice innovation in farming. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not part of that project, but of course, as being part of the Michelin family, I know some things about that. The focusing of helping the farmers, this kind of tire will help the farmers itself. Somehow, I could give you more of that later, maybe.
Okay. And then another one, Alvin, can you please tell us how long do your tires last in terms of life?
Okay, the tire itself has a duration of of usage. We could say guaranteed 5 years. Can you say it's okay or not? 5 years
Yeah.
is what we said. It's can be used within 5 years. So is it depending on your behavior, on your attitude towards driving? Michelin has specific tires for you, for example, or uh, the environment itself. For example, it is a snow tire, snowy
Snow,
places. You have
winter,
to use
for
this
winter.
winter tire like
Yes.
this. The rainy or the dried season somewhere in Southeast Asia, they have a kind of tire for that. So in that way, you can be able to use the tire effectively because of specific tires depending on your situation.
Yeah, I ask you this because if a company